For Tuesday, November 20th, 2018. We have a bunch of people in attendance and a bunch of issues that we want to discuss, and I think I'll let Adam take over.
Oh wow, what a privilege. Well, thanks for showing up, everybody. So there's two things that I want to show. One of them is a patch that is for Layout Builder and ready to commit, and Angie's going to test it out in front of us all, since Angie likes committing Layout Builder patches that pass WebCheck test case. So Angie, do you want to share your screen and do this, or do you want me to just share mine? Because I have the patch applied and everything.
Yeah, if you could do the sharing, that would be great. And I can
definitely do that. Let me share my screen, and let me also make sure I'm out of signal so that nobody can message me embarrassing criminal plans for later. Did I say criminal? I meant happy. Okay, can we all see my screen, my test page?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is a basic page that has a Layout Builder on it. There's no content because it's Layout Builder. What this patch in question, what it adds is it adds this search block here. So normally, you know what, if I want to show a screenshot of what it looked like before, where basically just imagine this search block isn't here. You know, you have all these different blocks, like a giant cornucopia of choices, no way to filter through them. With the search block, you can just filter them down. It's not a thing. And there you go. That's literally it. Everything else is totally unchanged. And you can just add or remove blocks as you always could.
So and the one thing I noticed while you were doing that, so first of all, this is a great patch, and I'm really happy to see it happen. The one thing I noticed that kind of you accidentally demoed was you tried searching for view and it didn't filter by the category. And I'm just curious if that was a deliberate choice to not also allow like the search index, whatever it's checking, to include categories as well as block names, because I could see like a custom site, for example, including all of their blocks under some heading like, you know, acme.com or something, and then that would be a quick way to just get the ones that are most relevant to the content author.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't actually know if that was intentional or not. I imagine it is unintentional. So if that is, so my question to you then is, shall we kick this back for that, or shall we open a follow-up for that?
No, a follow-up is fine. It's not a deal breaker or anything like that. And then this pattern that you're using here, the filter by block name, is this the same pattern that we have on the modules page? So is like the code the same?
That is what I understand to be the inspiration for this thing. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it certainly seems to behave the same. I just wasn't sure if we were using the same code or not, because that would be handy.
Yeah, no, we're not using the same code. It's completely new JavaScript that's part of Layout Builder, and I don't know why that is the case. I suspect that probably just, it's most likely just a tiny little bit of JS that is not genericized on the module page, and so it was just like, let's just reproduce it over here. So yeah, I assume
so probably another good follow-up would be see if there's a way to genericize that into a component or whatever the newfangled words are. Because this isn't the only place I imagine we'll want to apply this pattern as well. Like I could see us using it on the permissions page, on anything where it's like an overwhelming list of crap. You know, it's like, is a
Can we literally call the component overwhelming list of crap filter?
Yeah, I think we should totally do that.
Okay, so let me just write this down so I can file. So filter by category is the first thing, and genericize the filter.
Because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, can you flip back to the modules page for a sec?
Yeah, modules page uses that too. Yeah, include me in that. Angie, I've seen this. I've looked at that code a lot. It's lots of different variations, and it's not as reusable. Like Webform had to copy that code, and then I went off in a wild direction with it. That if you include me, because it would be nice if it also told you there's accessibility issues where it needs to tell you how many things it found.
Actually, that is solved. That is definitely a part of the patch of the Layout Builder one, and we have test coverage of that. And I believe, like, we definitely have test coverage of that. Where, let me see. Like, I am obviously not using a screen reader, but yeah, Drupal Live announced 0 blocks are available in the modified list. And if I look for this, 2 blocks are available.
Ooh.
So we did actually cover that. So, ha! Try to derail my patch demo.
Right.
That's cool, actually.
Although, why
I
is
know
it going
you
back
had
there?
said to me on Slack that it was reviewed by the accessibility team, but I didn't know what that meant. That's great.
It was actually reviewed by not somebody who's officially on the accessibility team. Donna Bungard took a look at it. It was not a very detailed look, but I'm also seeing what I wonder if that's a bug actually, because I just did a thing, and then it did that, and I deleted it, and it's still saying there's 2 blocks, so there might be a bug there.
So I might need to update that.
I'm going to confirm that. If we can have, I'm just going to mention I found that in testing, which is amazing because that's WebChick test case breaking the patch by proxy.
I spread my influence wherever possible.
It's a new low.
Yeah. Can you flip to the modules page for 1 second? I just want to check and see if you search for. Can you search for? Wow. Can you flip down this page? I'm just trying to see if category filtering works here or not, and I'm trying to remember what are some of the categories.
I don't think so. I mean, there's core. Let's look for field types or files.
No, it doesn't. Okay, so that's consistent with the current behavior then.
Yeah, this one only shows up because
it's in the description. Yep. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, cool. So we'll have to check on that accessibility bug and file 2 follow-ups. But other than that, I am happy with that.
Yeah, that looks pretty good to me.
And Adam, you've been demonstrating this patch, but you haven't told us what issue it's on.
Well, Benji, I wish you hadn't asked that. Questions I can't answer. This is the one right here. So let me just put this in. And now you can all tear it apart as you choose. And wow, a whole bunch of other people showed up. So that's embarrassing. I don't get to see the patch fail on my screen.
For the sake of the recording, that's 2998862.
Yeah. So are any other questions about this patch, or shall I show you the next thing?
I mean, this looks pretty good to me.
Except for all the bugs, of course.
Except for well, he only hit the 1 bug.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess I'll move on to the media stuff. So I could live demo this, but I also recorded a video that's present in the patch. So I figure we'll watch that. It's not very long. And then if you have additional questions, I can also live demo it as well. So can everybody see this video okay? Looking good? Cool, let's watch it. So I have a page set up with like a media field that uses the media library. And there's this new add external media button down amongst the media library options. And when you click it, it gives you this modal with a URL. And it supports things like YouTube and Vimeo. In fact, out of the box, it would directly support YouTube and Vimeo. So here I am finding a Vimeo video. And you just copy and paste the URL into that box. And then it does kind of the same thing that it does with other media library stuff where you upload. It also shows you this kind of abbreviated media form. Although there are some things about this that are still needing work, but that's okay because I'm just trying to show you guys the overall flow of how I envision it working. But yeah, this is like the most basic flow of it. And then once you add it and set the metadata and all that, it's in there. And you can add additional media by uploading or by reusing, as I demonstrate right here. Why the hell is revision log message there again? That's really fucking weird. But anyway, yeah, so that's pretty much it. It's just another way of adding media into the media library. And that is that's the video.
That's great to have that patch. Can you go and add media, external media not through that mechanism you just showed us? Like, can you do it from like the media overview page?
I absolutely can, yeah. Media.
I just want to check that the flow is the same.
Yeah, so adding a remote video would be an example of remote media. Let me just go to Vimeo, find something.
Yeah, so it is slightly different in that the other flow has not stuff in vertical tabs, and this one does, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Are you rebuilding the form from scratch or something? Or?
It's the same as with uploading. It's just using a different kind. It's like using the form differently, sort of. I'm not 100% clear on that, on exactly how it works, to be honest. But yeah, they are. It's also like hiding certain fields that would normally show up in vertical tabs, just because in the context of the media library, we're trying to show as few fields as possible.
Right. That was my main concern, is there's still so many fields being shown. Like, it's a ridiculous number of fields.
I actually think that some of that is bugs in the patch, because I can tell you for a start, I can tell you that revision log message text field is not supposed to be there. So likely that's a thing that just broke in refactoring.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, and I think I want to say URL alias is also not supposed to be there. But I can double check that, because I agree. Like, as you saw in the video, it's too many fields.
It is. And if you go back, I'm sorry, could you do that one more time? We'll click add media, click remote video, and then pause here. So like, this is still not what we want, in that really the only thing that should be on here is a video or URL, and that's it. But whatever, shit happens. But at least here, there's only 2 fields being shown to you. In the other screen, there was like 5 of them or something. And there's no way to collapse or hide them. So that's actually creating like a worse experience than what we would see from adding it from the back end. So I think that still needs a little bit of work.
Yeah, I totally concur. I think, like, that's definitely a bug, and not something that's going to persist in the final patch. I think the reason I wanted to bring this up to you guys is a couple of things. One, I wanted to get feedback on the overall flow of it. Ignoring the fact that it's showing too many fields for the moment, is there anything like otherwise very wrong with the way that works, or like what the fact that there's 3 buttons there now, or anything like that? And the reason I want to bring that up is because, where is it? So Sean B posted some concerns about this patch, where he's saying we don't really have mock-ups of how that piece of the functionality is supposed to look. Like in the original mock-ups, there's a button that says add external media, but it's not there's no mock-up about what happens when.
But there's no like step 2. Yeah.
Exactly. There's no step 2 or any other step. So he's commenting on that.
Yeah. Can you flip back to like you said this sandbox has the patch applied. Could you go to a piece of content where we can get those 3 buttons?
Yes. So if I add a content here, basic page has it, and right there.
By the way, anyone else feel free to jump in here.
Yeah, I mean, I'll immediately weigh in. Like I use, like Strikingly a page builder, and they have one add media button. It opens a dialog and then shows you it shows you 2 options. It's like upload or select a remote URL.
Right.
And that's, and it remembers. And that to me is a really safe pattern. So it kind of figures out, well, this person's going to use external URL. So we'll remember that it has a 2-tab UI. Yeah, it's upload or enter URL.
Yeah, that was, I think,
what is this program that you're talking about?
It's like Wix. It's Strikingly.
Wix. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I think WordPress does something similar from what I'm told.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah,
so it is a lot to have the 3 buttons. The other thing is, I'm sorry, could you close this one and click the add media or browse media button, I guess. Okay, and then you have add media there, but you don't have add external media there.
Right. I think this is kind of the part where I was like, okay, I got the proof of concept working, so let me stop here and talk about the UX before.
Yeah, no, this is perfect. I wish more people did this at this point in the patch, and not like, okay, we've just worked 4 years on this thing. Anyway,
I don't know who you mean.
Yeah. the Drupal way to do it would be to have it's one form with radio buttons and conditional logic. Add media, upload file, enter URL. I'm using radio buttons because that we know we have in core. It would be better if there was a visual, you have conditional. If it was radios, we have conditional logic, supports that.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a thing we can do at this point, because the media library is sort of architected this way, where it's a bunch of separate forms that are kind of presented as being one thing. But that being said, I'm about 99% sure we could remove the add external media button and make it just make it like another tab of this page. That I'm pretty sure.
Oh, in the UI, yeah.
That would be better too.
Okay, so there's general agreement on that. That being said, is there any chance that, so this is a thing that we're going to work on in Barcelona. If we had mock-ups to go off or designs, that would be super, super helpful, because then there's just no bike shedding. Then it's like, Christina or Emily gave us these mock-ups. This is what we want. Make this happen. So is that going to be a thing that adding a tab is like something we could do before then, but is there any chance of getting a design in place, or at least a mock-up before that? Dead silence. I assume that.
Dead silence doesn't sound good.
When is the sprint in Barcelona again?
So the sprint is on starts December 3rd and it ends on the 7th. So we got a couple of weeks. Well, 10 days. I mean, honestly, like,
yeah, I don't have much experience about how many designs are there, how are they done, and I will have to start from scratch. So I'm not sure if I will be able to have something by then. And maybe we can have a call with Emily and figure it out. I don't know. I don't know what's the state right now. I'm sorry. So
that's fair enough.
That's okay.
Yeah,
You and Emily are both on this call. Do we want to take a couple minutes and show the current designs?
I would have to dig those up, and I keep never fucking knowing where those are. Because they're kind of buried, and they're also very old. They're like years old. Alternatively, what would be fine with me is if this, if I change it so that, we have 2 tabs on add media and remove that add external media button and then make a new video for everybody. And like, if I do that and everyone's like, oh, that looks pretty good, that makes sense. Then we probably, honestly, if a UX person signs off, I feel like that right there is enough.
That's probably fine.
Like, yeah, like if we nailed it more, like if we almost nailed it right now, then like, why do we need designs?
Jacob, is it easy for you to screen share whatever program you just talked about? Because
I can hop on my site.
Because I'm just like, we currently have 2 designers on this call, which is kind of unprecedented.
I mean, I'll totally share it. I have no problem. I think it's just funny to share strikingly because I basically was like, I need the laziest builder I could possibly find, site builder, and here you can see my screen. I mean, the one thing. So when I'm looking at this, the add external media throws me off because I'm not used to here. I'll use a backup here. I'll use an experiment, so I don't have to even think about it.
I'm going to stop screen sharing unless people really want to see my screen.
That's fine.
I mean, just to throw it out there, the quick overview of this is it's basically like paragraphs with ridiculously. It's like what Gutenberg's doing with the UI, and it's really matter of fact simple. So to add an image, or let's say we do add image, you go in here, you get a little box, add link. If you hit upload, they have the tab interface. So upload image. They do it, drag a file here, browse your computer, or enter URL to upload from the web. They're doing it all in one screen, and then they have your media library, and then their shared library.
I honestly like that better because clicking another tab is annoying, and the action is adding media. Like, that's what you want to do. And where the media comes from is sort of a secondary concern.
Yeah, and the language here I like a lot because I think it's really, people understand, well, drag file here, they understand. Browse your computer, so you're pulling it from your computer, or enter URL to upload from web. That's a little awkward, but URL from web helps people know you're going to go to some resource and pull it. And they have the standard stuff.
Right. One thing that's worth mentioning is again, I wish I could just dig up the mock-ups that were from years ago, but I think there was a page on there that looked kind of like this, where it all happens on one screen. Probably would take a fair amount of refactoring, but I'm not going to say it's impossible yet.
I know. I wish you could, like, I know you have separate forms. I have this. Well, one hack you could do is, so the file upload, ready, this browse, you can't really pass that data around. Once it's set, it's in the background. But if someone does enter your URL and you layer it in, you could direct them to the other form. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, there might be a way to fake it.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean, and I'm not ruling it out as a possibility. So I think if there's general agreement from everybody that just like a one-step thing like we're looking at right now would be better, then we could go with that. It sounds like there's consensus that removing the add external media button would be a good thing.
Yeah.
And that we
definitely
really
heard consensus on that. I don't know that I've heard consensus, particularly from the designers, that this approach is a good one we should take. And it sounds like it's going to be technically challenging, so we should make sure. For me, I do like this because when I putting myself in a user, situation, like my options then become browse, which means take something I already put in there and get it back out again, or add, and then figuring out how to add it is separate from just adding. And then it's only one choice to make between browsing and adding.
So that would mean we would keep the 2 buttons of browse media or add media. but then add media would become this one thing where you can either upload or use a URL from that screen.
I personally would prefer that, but I would love to hear Christina and Emily's thoughts.
Yep. No pressure, guys.
So that would be different from what Jacob is demonstrating, because here the uploaded images is one of the 3 tabs.
No.
And we would still keep that as a separate button.
That's right. We keep that as a separate button. And then I don't know what Strikingly Library is. That seems like these are other things they provide that you could pull in, like memes or something.
It's just reusable
doc
art. No, I don't think this tab is
I think it's less about the tabs and how that's presented and more about the binary. It's like rather than a tertiary choice.
Just browse or add. So choose something you have or add something new.
Yep. Okay, Christina's off mute. Let's let her talk.
Yep. I was going to just answer the direct question that I wouldn't know what to say unless I do some research before that. I mean, I'm very sure that's a common pattern. So before just throwing here some thoughts, I would really like to research about what's people saying about these patterns, because I'm really sure someone has done some kind of research somewhere. So I would jump before to.
Hey, I found an issue with a whole bunch of mockups. I don't know if this is the issue, but maybe this isn't that issue. But anyway, it's node 2828538.
It's in the
ideas queue, and it has a whole bunch of different things.
I don't think that this is the issue with the mockups I saw, but I'm gonna find that and like make a tiny URL so that we can just fucking have it.
That sounds great.
Yeah,
I also find that like once every 6 months, and then immediately forget about where it is, and
like everything, it's somewhere on D.O.
Right.
Lost in the forest. So yeah, Emily, any thoughts on this in terms of what the potential design, or would you also want to just research it and, offer an opinion later?
Yeah, I can see what I had for designs too, and then try and send something over to you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because I was going to say, Ellie did a bunch of work on this back when she first started at Acquia. Or not at Acquia, in our department anyway.
Okay.
So, but again, this was a couple years ago. Just like all of these things are a couple years ago. So
yeah. I think, so it sounds to me like there's definitely a couple of, so TLDR, we have consensus on removing the add external media button and collapsing it. The question is just how to collapse it exactly. And additionally, I have definitely got a bug of too many fields showing up when adding media, so that has to be addressed either way. And
I mean, I certainly think so. I'm happy to hear we don't need to address it, but I think we do.
No, I mean, Angie, I think it was actually already addressed. I think it was actually already done.
Something broke in the last couple of days.
I think I broke it, and there may not have been any test coverage.
Yep,
that's so totally that seems very likely. Yeah, that's what I do. I move fast and break things.
That's fine.
So yeah, I think other than that, it sounds like both of our designers would like to sort of think more about what the best approach for the condensed ad media would be. So shall I?
Yeah, and I have a question about that, because we do have this media sprint coming up in a couple of weeks or 10 days. Christina, are you still able to come to that?
Yes.
The one in Barcelona? Cool.
Excellent.
So it sounds like we additionally need some kind of a kickoff meeting or something before that sprint happens, so that you have a chance to be exposed to the designs that already exist and kind of get a debrief from the team and that kind of thing. So I think this week's going to be horrible for that, because the Americans are going to be out for Thanksgiving. But maybe I'll try and set something up for next week as just kind of a kickoff. Also, wouldn't hurt to just kind of brainstorm in general about what we want to accomplish at that sprint and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the things that we want to work on at the sprint. So I think if we can go into the sprint with either mock-ups or a very clear idea of how it's supposed to work, that would be super beneficial, and we could actually get it done at the sprint, probably to RTBC. So that would be fantastic.
that would be great. Just next week I will be able to attend meetings only Monday and Tuesday.
Monday and Tuesday? What time?
Yeah. Working time, working European time from
working European.
I don't know.
So 3 a.m. to like some other time.
Let me check. I'm not sure.
Sure. Sorry to take up UX time on this, but it is pretty important because media is one of our.
Yeah, I would really like to. I mean, yeah, I can round up Christina. I can try to round up either Sean or Marcos. I'd say Sean because he's the one who like kicked back the patch and being like, "Hey, we need UX input." So,
well,
yeah.
if we pick a European friendly time, that should help with getting Sean and Marcos on it.
Yeah, and I'll wake up at any time of day that I have to do that. So whatever.
I am going to be somewhat hamstrung there because I have Lily those 2 mornings, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably, yeah, it's useful if you can show up, but if we get not you or somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
okay
it's not like the world ends if I'm not there.
You say that, Angie. You say that.
But actually, maybe Gabor, would you be able to potentially attend a meeting at a decent time, European time, on Monday or Tuesday? Next week? Okay, then maybe that can be the thing. I will slightly favor Tuesday because there's a chance I could do it. But...
I think it's from 2 a.m. to 4 p.m. I mean, there's a lot of time that works also for you.
Yeah, so what is the time in your time? And I'll figure it out from there.
Okay. So I would say from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m.
7 p.m. Europe, Central Europe time?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, I'll send out a doodle after this call. And then invite everyone who's going to the sprint. And if anyone else wants to be part of it, that's fine too.
Okay.
And try and get that set up. And you said either Monday or Tuesday is good for you, Christine?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. I will get on that after this call. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you.
So maybe if Emily could attend too.
Yeah, Emily and I are both on the West Coast. But so that greatly reduces the number of reasonable hours when you include West Coast people. But Adam's on the East Coast, and that's much easier. So
yeah, I also don't care if I have to wake up at 3 a.m. for this. I'll deal.
Yeah, I honestly don't. I wouldn't, but I have childcare issues.
Yeah,
not always possible.
That's
okay.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, that's me. Is irrelevant. So good.
Okay.
Awesome.
Can we get
Thanks
back to the usability meeting?
Yeah, Adam, thank you for showing that stuff. That was great.
You're welcome. Thank you for your input and for breaking my damn patch.
Always.
Yay.
So I also think that for the sake of the recording, we never mentioned that issue number. Add OEmbed support to the media library is 2996029. Another issue that was brought up was 2828538. I'm sorry, not that one. That's one that Angie mentioned. 2570985. Update the module descriptions on the extend page. Angie, did you want to talk about that?
I mean, I'm mostly just confused by it. It was raised in the committer Slack because we're trying to like get through all the RTBC issues, you know. But it was confusing because I don't know where this initiative came from, and so we developed some standards for these module descriptions that they should start with a verb. So like extracts, blah, 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 or punches, blah, blah, blah. Apparently everything is violent over here, but yeah. And then it should be a short description, basically enough so that people know, yep, I should definitely install that module, or no, I definitely shouldn't, you know, kind of thing. And so the patch does all kinds of things. Like it's not just doing that. It's not just doing like a light formatting and some shortening. It's like reinventing all kinds of different stuff. Like it's almost like in some cases elongating the description quite a bit and trying to add even more details to it. So, so I don't know that I can talk to it, more so that I was like, Did this come from one of these calls? And if so, is anyone qualified to talk about where it came from? And if not, that's also fine. But I'm just trying to like get a handle on it. Because to me, it's like if we did one pass at it, that's just making it conform to the standard, that's fine. That would be really easy to review. It would be like instead of starting CKEditor with the word WYSIWYG, you'd start it with like provides or something like that. But the rest of them, I'm not really sure. But it sucks because it looks like there was a sprint around this in Drupal Europe. People are really, like, a bunch of people worked on it. So they're clearly trying to accomplish something, but it's I guess I'm not super clear where that initiative came from and what problem it's trying to solve specifically.
Okay, well, it looks as though Clara filed the issue and did a lot of the work on it. And she often joins these meetings, but is not here today. You already commented on it.
Yeah, I already basically said what I just said in the issue. So I think what we could probably do is just postpone this till a time she can attend and then talk about it with her.
Right. You knocked it back to needs work, and I also added that it needs an issue summary update. Because if we could see in the issue summary what the proposed changes were, that would make it a lot easier to review.
That's also a good point, yes.
So I think that's enough on that issue for today, unless anyone wants to add something. I have a couple of other issues that I was planning to look at, but before
I see we have Andre on the call. Do you have a workflow-related thing that you want to discuss too?
No, I joined because I saw that the taxonomy revisionable patch was meant to be discussed.
Yeah, I saw that too, and that's exciting. Do you want to talk about that one?
If I can help, I'm here to help with it. If there is something unclear about it or anything.
Sure. I guess that was one of the ones I noticed just because I was looking at the queue of things that need review and say they need usability review. Mm-hmm. So this is 288-0149. Convert taxonomy terms to be revisionable. I think, as we just said, that's needed for the Workspaces initiative. And I guess, as far as I know, the only reason it's marked for usability review is that it has this change to the list of terms in a vocabulary that if there are pending revisions, then we get this extra error message. No, I'm sorry, not error message, it's warning message. Tags contains one term with pending revisions. Drag and drop of terms with pending revisions is not supported, but you can re-enable drag and drop support by getting each term to a published state. Is there any other reason this needs usability review?
Well, to be honest, I think we already looked at this many months ago, and maybe I just forgot to remove the tag. Yeah, any new opinion is always welcome.
I see in the screenshot the term test2 is highlighted. Does that identify the one that has a pending revision?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it worth saying that in the warning message, especially since there might be more than 5 terms in a real-life example?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, having a small text, the terms with pending revisions are highlighted below, doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I was just saying it, parentheses, test2, parenthesis, pending revision. I mean, it's like saying something's not published. I mean, it's the most important piece of information here if you want it drag and drop to start working.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we list them at the top, it could get overwhelming, right? If there's 100 terms.
How does this behave from a scalability perspective when you have large vocabularies?
What do you mean exactly?
So if you have, for instance, 2,000 terms in a vocabulary,
mm-hmm.
And so it really, you would never load all of those terms onto a single page. At least I would think it shouldn't. I haven't examined it. Is there any intention of allowing some sort of bulk change? This kind of echoes an issue we were looking at a couple of weeks, months ago, with like massively destructive changes.
Yeah.
So I just didn't know, like, what's the anticipated pattern? Like, highlighting the row seems to be a visual indicator. Are there any accessibility issues related? Stuff like that. Does this scale, and are there accessibility concerns?
I don't think accessibility has, I mean, I don't think this patch has been reviewed for accessibility, to be honest.
Yeah, I think in terms of usability, the point is that if there are 2,000 terms in this vocabulary and 50 terms per page, that means 40 pages. I might have to look on pages 3, 17, and 38 to find the terms that have pending revisions.
I see what you mean, yes.
So maybe on the same page or on another tab on that page, we should provide a list where you can filter on those that have pending revisions.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess that would work. It will be a bit weird to show, if you go back to the, if we look at the screen, so test 2 is intended by 1 unit. Some other pending revision could be a child of test 4, so triple intended. And it could be tricky to show terms without their parents, unless we don't indent anything on that particular page.
It would seem to me that you would need a new interface, like it would be a different page. It wouldn't necessarily be this page. With the drag and drop capability, you could go to something more like a view, which could open it up even to a VBO type interface, where if you really desperately wanted to bulk commit, you could. But something where you weren't worried about relationships so much as exposing what has changed so that people can selectively address it. Otherwise, it's just kind of the same thing as saying you have a whole bunch of things, go find them.
Right. Yeah.
I totally am for a view with bulk operations. Seems like a great solution, because it, and maybe Vue supports, you know, I don't know if Vue supports showing the, how would you put it, like the breadcrumbs to the term, but that would be the visual cue of the hierarchy if it did. That's an old thing. Yeah, that you could get term parents in a view.
Just as a list?
Yeah, it looks like just a list. This can, yeah, the parent term of the term is what they call it, term parents. And if you have multiple, it'll show. But that, I mean, it's more enough contextual information for someone to know where the term is placed, and it's clickable. You know, if it's a view with bulk operations, they can go to view it, they can go edit it, they can go to approve it. So.
Yeah, I guess I was also thinking of the possibility of showing all the terms with pending revisions, and then for each term also show its parents in the table, so you'd have something that looks sort of like this. But then it would be pretty awkward if you want to select all. So I think that's just going down the wrong rabbit hole. And I think I agree with the suggestion made earlier that we should have a separate tab that doesn't try to display hierarchy. You think it might still be a good idea to show at least one parent in a second column? And providing bulk operations would definitely be nice.
I would suggest that we don't default to showing the parent, but because it's in a view, that means if someone wants to add it, they could. I would keep it a simple interface, because this is a very simple interface here. Making it overly complex might confuse users. But there's a corollary problem that I haven't found an issue for yet. So it may not exist. But it's really hard from a taxonomy term to, in the context of the taxonomy term, know what vocabulary it's a member of. And so for throwing people off to another page, we need to make certain that the context of the related vocabulary is visible. You only have the breadcrumbs across the top. Without the breadcrumbs, it's really hard. So like when you go to a particular term, I've run into a problem, a usability issue with the site that I manage, where people look at the term and are like, okay, so what vocabulary is it a member of? And they're like, oh, so.
Right, I think we're sticking with the idea that we'd have another tab on the same page, so it would still just be listing terms from a single vocabulary.
Okay, so it would retain the same breadcrumbs across the top.
I think so.
Can you scroll up a bit?
Sure.
Oh, sorry. I was looking at the picture, but I was thinking that it's the Drupal interface. I was trying to see the title of the page in Drupal.
Oh, the title of the page in Drupal? No. That, it looks like the list of terms from the tag. Let me see if I can get there. I think I have Umami installed here, yes.
Right, so you would see the vocabulary name just above. I mean, it's right there in the page title.
Right.
I don't think that's going to be a concern.
I don't want to, Benji, can you just stay here? I just don't want to bike shed too much on this, but we're in this list view and it shows the hierarchy. And the issue is we need to be able to filter and perform bulk operation on terms. And the issue we're dealing with is pending revisions. But I'm just going to throw out there, like, there's a list tab, which makes a lot of sense. It's the hierarchy. It's really important that people see that. But a manage tab where you can filter by term, by pending revision, by status, could address more larger usability issues. We could call it pending revisions, but I just want to throw out there that this pending revision tab becomes like a manage terms tab. If you go to content, that's kind of how content has a manage view.
I was actually thinking exactly the same thing, that if we're doing a new tab, maybe it should be more useful than just showing pending revisions. Yeah, totally agreed with Jacob.
It needs to be simple because it's in course, so we're not like it's. I don't. What other? I mean, it should look at what's going on in the content view and then just kind of mirror that. Benji, can you go to the content view and just see what the filters are? Does it show pending revisions?
I don't think so.
Oh, moderated content. That's the one that'll show it to us. There's a tab under the new moderated content.
Yeah, I see. It doesn't have anything.
Moderation state, just pull it down and see what it says. It's, oh, we don't, okay.
Oh, that actually touches on a pattern that I was confused about not existing for a while. Was we treat taxonomy differently than other content, where it would almost make sense to have a under moderated content, like a taxonomy tab here, that would treat content that is a taxonomy term in the same way that we treat nodes and files and media.
You mean a primary tab?
Yeah, well, sorry, primary tabs. So content, files, taxonomy terms, something like that. So a new tab there. And again,
we're going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, I'm done.
Wait, but you're right. That's what's frustrating about the rabbit hole. I'm just laughing. Kind of makes sense. I mean, because comments aren't turned on, but comments are here, and I got to throw out taxonomies. Sometimes more important than comments for certain people.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It comes down to a fundamental pattern of what defines content. And this is not the place to talk about it. I understand that. But it just means that when going through the interface, when I go to use something, the pattern of usage that I expect to see is inconsistent, because I think of a list of terms, not like, we treat them like they are web tags in Drupal in a lot of instances. So that seems to be the primary way that it's used or talked about, but a taxonomy is more than that. And so when I go to look at taxonomy tab and we're seeing a patch like we are, where the warning is coming up in the issue that we're currently examining, I am trying to compare it to how I would expect it to work for other content. And it seems to work differently in a lot of instances, rather than a unified experience that makes taxonomy usage feel similar to other types of content. It's like a second-class citizen.
And I guess the big question is, should it stay under the structure tab or should it be under content?
For now, I think that, yeah, right. It should stay where it is, right? Like, we don't want to change paradigm. Like, we want to fix the issue at hand, which is people need to be able to manage their taxonomy terms to approve pending revisions. Like, that's the most immediate. So making a manage tab with that functionality, and then starting to get that new tab to line up with the patterns we're seeing in how people manage do we provide a language filter? Do we provide, what other filters do we provide to make it a little usable? Or
the way I would attack it initially is I would go with exactly the page we're looking at right now on, I think it's Benchy's screen, which is this image with the test 2. We would add in that view, but we would make, so that view would look at only this vocabulary. And then you'd have a genericized version of that same view under content. So you would reuse it, but under the content context, it would allow you to review all of those pending changes for all things related to it. And then you're using the same pattern in 2 places, but it's specific to the context. And then you could start addressing the issues moving forward more broadly. And you're not introducing a whole lot of stuff.
That makes sense to me. I was wondering, should we follow the pattern that nodes already have and call the view the tab moderated terms? That might make it easier, I mean, terminology-wise, rather than pending revision terms or whatever.
Yes, I like that.
They're in a pending revision. It's obviously that they're either moderated or something like that. I mean, I'm not sure we want to expose the term pending revision too much.
I think that if the pattern is to say moderated terms, then you could make this tab literally moderated terms, and it's just essentially including it specific to this vocabulary, and then you can reuse it elsewhere as needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that makes very much sense. Do we want to look at the text again based on the discussion today? I mean, I am talking about the text in the warning message. Or we can discuss that in the issue. I don't know.
I feel like when the view's created, we'll have a better sense of the text. Because I don't like when we create this the moderated terms view, there's going to be language there that should be pulled into this text. Like, what's the drop down? What does the bulk operation say? Because that's really what we're going to want to reflect here. Does it say approve pending revision? I don't know. Yeah, we don't have any examples.
Yeah, we don't.
I don't think that has approve pending.
No, I think it just has published, and it might also clash with content moderation. I'm not really fully up to speed with this part of content moderation. So, but one important thing for that view is that it needs bulk operations, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we have to deal with that problem in any case. The problem being that we need we need a way to get all those pending revisions not pending anymore. But in content moderation terms, that could mean many things. I mean, that could mean that we would have to list all the possible transitions or something. Yeah, I'm not sure. I have to think about it a bit more.
Could we use whatever the current pattern is for publishing, bulk publishing nodes? Same language?
I think so, yeah. Well, actually, no, not necessarily, because right now, nodes just have a binary state, not published or published. But with content moderation, there can be multiple names for each. I mean, not published could mean needs work, needs review, whatever, and draft. But also published can be multiple states can be published.
That's right.
So I'm not sure we can use the same words, to be honest. I haven't thought at all about group operations and content moderation, so this is just on the spot thinking that I'm saying right now.
Right. So I think that this can be postponed to a follow-up. This seems like a huge issue, making taxonomy terms revisionable, and I'd like to see that that bulk operations form for terms added, but I also don't want to have to rush that because this issue is waiting for it. So I think that I'm a little reluctant to say this because we are the usability team, and I'm sort of saying that I'm voting for allowing something into core with a known usability issue. But I just think it's practical to create that separate view in a follow-up issue.
Yeah, I agree, because all this needs to be figured out for nodes as well. For example, the bulk operations part. We need to figure out how to do that for nodes as well. So it makes sense to take our time to do it right.
I concur. I think that it makes sense to release this issue, but the complexity of what we're suggesting be added is a new issue to be added on. But I think it's important that we not drop the issue, because it's something we don't want to delay very long in making available. Because from a scalability perspective, this pattern isn't going to work very well once you get past about 100 terms.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, there's two MVPs things that I could think of to do. Well, one, for accessibility, there has to be some way that test 2 has either text that's visible or associated with the link that says pending revision, because the yellow, for someone who's using a screen reader, they won't see it when they're navigating. So we could have the accessibility team kind of weigh in on what they feel the best approach is. The only MVP, because I'm concerned about the scalability. If someone's got 10,000 terms, or 1,000 terms, you could do not bulk operation, but like a quick screen that says publish all pending revisions, or change the state of all terms to published. I mean, that could happen in contrib too. I mean, I could back off of that and say someone might do that in contrib, where there could be a button that just is a quick,
I think with the content moderation, the issue really is that published is no longer a binary flag state, but it's pushed into a much more complex scenario. That's why I think separating it out to me definitely does make sense. I just find it to be a very, urgent's the wrong word to say, but I don't see the patch being very useful for any sites at scale until we address this follow-up issue. This would only work for very small use cases.
It's okay.
So on the page that we're looking at now, or this screenshot, should we add a column for moderation state? And that would have the advantage that we wouldn't have to say in the warning message that highlighted things are moderated. That would be clear from the text. And if you could sort on that, if you could click to sort, then you wouldn't really need the separate page.
If you sort, you get into the problem with indentation.
Right. It's hard to show hierarchy as well as this additional information. I forgot that.
Yeah, this isn't an entity list builder. This is kind of custom, I think.
Yeah. I think content moderation could hook in and put the current moderation state there. Shouldn't be that hard. Should that be a follow-up as well?
I'm sorry, should what be a follow-up?
Putting the moderation state, putting a new column with the moderation state on this page.
That seems to be valuable, but the question I have is, will that be readily available to a user, or not readily visible to, or discernible to a user, that what moderation state it is in is directly related to the language about published state? Because there's a leap. If I have two states that are both publishable states, and I list those two states separately, so test 2 and test 3 are in a different state, but both states are unpublished, and I need to get them to a published state, I don't know if a user might necessarily make that leap of logic.
Also, some users might not need to see it. I mean, that's the part we're getting into. Like, this needs to be a view. This can't be a view because it's a hierarchy. So the follow-up ticket of creating that managed view is more critical. Like, if we add this column, some users don't. Does every user need to see the moderation state of a taxonomy term? Are they just, if an editor's going in, is that even relevant? And we're not letting people have control over that.
But then you brought up the point that we, for accessibility, we shouldn't just rely on a highlight color to show the moderation state. So we either have to add some text to one of the existing columns, just flagging the ones that aren't published, or we have to add another column.
Or could it be an ARIA attribute on the table row? Is that a thing? Or
yeah, you can do ARIA title,
pending
revision, and that would tell people when they're navigating through.
Okay.
The accessibility team has to just weigh in if the yellow is discernible, is considered a discernible color.
Mm-hmm.
It probably is. Benji, I'm backing off because we start going down this rabbit hole of making this work. No, as you start visualizing adding a column to something that most users just see as a simple way to organize their terms. Yeah. It takes something that was a simple UI and makes it more complex.
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news since we're having so much fun, but we are out of time. And I think we're pretty much agreed on this issue that we're going to have a follow-up to create a bulk operations form. We'll do some wordsmithing on the message, and we'll probably need an accessibility review to decide whether the highlight color and ARIA label are enough. And if they are, then we don't need to add another column to this page.
Mm-hmm.
Am I strong-arming anyone, or do people agree with that summary?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, then thank you very much for joining the meeting. Hope to see many of you next week or sometime soon. And I'll add a comment to this issue. I think Adam will take care of the issues we looked at earlier. And of course, just because I'm adding a comment doesn't mean that you can't add your own as well.
Okay, great.
Well, thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.